Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would start something new and cover some of the older routines that are out there that are free from either like the old school training era or more to what bodybuilders call the golden era. Back when guys who got into bodybuilding didn't look hideous by modern standards and they were still strong. They trained for size and strength together. And so today I thought I would cover one of the most classic beginning routines that's out there. It's called Arnold Schwarzenegger's Golden Six. This is one that he put together. It's one that he used for his clients, and one that he put in his original big book that he put out. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on scaling up my crafting a little bit, and let's cover this. All right, Golden Six, I've got it all pulled up in front of me. You guys should be able to find various versions of this online, because again, he published it in a book already. But it's pretty much a full body routine that he recommends that people do 3 days per week. And I believe he recommends it for running at 12 for 3-month cycle. So that's basically for 12 weeks. And it's pretty standard. And he calls it the Golden Six because you do 6 exercises every workout. So there's no split. This is pure full body. And again, people will say, well, full body, don't those suck? People who don't know, no, full body, if you're drug free, is really the way to train unless you ever have an actual reason to split things up. But body part splits are complete garbage. If you're not on a hefty dose of drugs, you are going to make slower gains on those. That's just the way it is. So let's look at the routine, how he has it laid out, and discuss maybe some of the possible problems with it. But again, if someone wants to run one of these routines in its purest form, that's fine. All right. First of all, he has people start with barbell squats, a barbell back squat. He recommends that you do 4 sets of 10 reps. Now, that is a lot of volume. All right, for a lot of people that's going to be pretty exhausting, but it is what it is. This will put size on a beginner. Definitely put size on a beginner. I think most people, though, as they get more advanced, doing 4 sets of 10 with even a moderate weight on the squat 3 times a week is going to be too much. But people in that first year or two of training, yeah, absolutely. But note, he has people start with the barbell squat. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger recommended that. All right, after that, he has them go to the wide grip barbell bench press. Again, 3 sets of 10 reps. That's classic. 3 sets of 10 on basic exercises was a really common method for decades for guys to train, doing them 3 times a week. So that's pretty normal. Then he has people do chin-ups, 3 sets of chin-ups to max, meaning as many as you can do with good technique for 3 sets. So again, even if you can only do 2 or 3 chin-ups, you do 2 or 3 chin-ups and you take a long enough break till you can do more, and then do it 3 times. And again, if you can eventually build up on that. Again, he doesn't give reps because obviously on chin-ups, some people starting out are only going to be able to do a couple. Now, what I would point out, a lot of people say, well, I can't do chin-ups, and you need to do eccentric chin-ups. Get up on a stool or a chair and climb up there and just lower yourself. You do that for a couple of weeks, I promise you, you will be able to do chin-ups. All right, then next he has people do the behind the neck overhead press. And that's probably going to be standing. Again, I would recommend you do it standing. 4 sets of 10 reps. Then the barbell curl for 3 sets of 10 reps. Then the bent knee sit-up for 3 to 4 sets, as many as you can do. All right, and what he recommends people do, people are like, okay, well, how does he recommend you progress? There's no numbers given. Well, he makes that pretty clear. It's pretty simple. Come in and you pick a weight that you can actually do all of this on. If you can't do 4 sets of 10 on the squat, you picked too heavy of a weight. If you can't do 3 sets of 10 on the bench press, you picked too heavy of a weight. All right, and I'm sorry, but if people can't figure that out, then you probably don't have business lifting weights. If you can't, within a little bit of effort, figure out how much weight you can lift for these things and then undershoot it by a little bit, you probably should find a different hobby. You might not be smart enough to figure out how to lift weights, and that's fucking scary. So, the way he has you do it, you find a weight that you can successfully do all of the prescribed sets and reps with. That's your starting point. And then he says, when you get to a point to where you can do 2 to 3 extra reps with any given weight, so, all these 10 rep sets, when you can do 12 or 13 with that weight, particularly assuming on the last set, then it's time to add a little bit of weight. But it needs to be a small enough weight jump that you can still do the full sets of 10. All right, again, that's a point that needs to be emphasized, that that's what he wants you to do. He has everyone working with 10 rep sets. And 3 to 4 sets of 10, that's a lot of workload. And now, some people would look at this program and say, all right, this doesn't seem like that much. It's 6 exercises. But when you look at it, actually, it is a lot. All right, 4 sets of barbell squats of 10 reps. That's 12 sets of squats per week. If your legs can't grow on that, you've got problems. That is actually an insane amount of workload, because that's 120 reps of squats a week, probably at around 70% of your max if you're picking the weights pretty close. As far as the rest of the upper body, everything's getting worked very effectively. Behind the neck press plus the bench press works the majority of the muscles in your upper body. The only thing being neglected a bit is going to be your lats and your biceps. But then he has you doing 3 sets of chin-ups to failure 3 times a week. That's 9 sets of chin-ups, as many as you can do. That covers everything else. All right, people will look at this and say, okay, well, are you sure that's balanced? Where's the upper chest work? Where's the side delt work? It's all in there. All right, the bench press works the whole chest, maybe not the upper chest extremely effectively, but it works the front delts, works the triceps very effectively. But behind the neck presses, while it de-emphasizes the chest compared to the front, it works the rest of the shoulder girdle to a very large extent. And it still works the upper chest some, along with hitting the long head of the tricep a bit more than the bench press. So a lot of stuff is being hit there. Then you go to the chin-ups. Honestly, the chin-ups he has you doing are probably enough bicep work for most guys to get as big a bicep as they're going to get. Plenty of lat work. And what else does the chin-up work? We just discussed this the other day. The chin-up works the upper chest and the long head of the tricep. People don't think of it as being an exercise for those, but it hits them. And when you consider that you're using it as a secondary exercise because you have 2 other exercises that hit the upper chest already. You have 2 other exercises that hit the triceps, and then the behind the neck hits the long head a little more than the bench. All 3 heads of the tricep are being worked with a lot of workload. The entire chest and the upper chest is being worked with a lot of workload. Now, as far as your delt work goes, the bench press is covering your front delts. 9 sets of chin-ups a week is going to hit your rear delts very effectively. Behind the neck presses are reshoring all of that up, and they do hit the side delt. That's the reason he has people doing behind the neck instead of to the front, to get a little more side and rear delt involvement and engagement going on. So actually, from an upper body perspective, this is a really balanced program. There is not a single muscle in your upper body that isn't being worked effectively enough to see solid muscle growth. When you step back and assess it, every single head of every muscle is actually getting a couple different exercises, even though there's very, very few in there. I mean, there's really only 4 upper body exercises. But as far as the delt stuff goes, the fact that there's 4 sets of 10 on the behind the neck press, that's 12 sets of behind the neck press every week. 120 reps, that's a lot of volume. Your shoulder girdle is absolutely not going to be lagging off of that. Absolutely not going to be lagging, especially when you think about the total frequency, the total volume involved. That's a lot of workload. Lower body, the only thing I don't like is the lack of direct posterior chain work. Now, 4 sets of 10 on barbell squats, again, 12 sets a week. That is a ton of volume for your lower body. Your quads are going to grow, your glutes are going to grow. My only concern is that maybe the spinal erectors and the hamstrings are going to get underworked a bit. The only problem is that there's not much recovery left to add other stuff in, meaning it's going to be difficult for you to come in and do additional work for those on this program, because so much work is being done on these other big movements that I think that this is going to be about all the recovery most lifters are going to be able to handle. If you add other exercises, your total systematic recovery is just going to be shot. So it's a decent program overall, but the only concern there is that you can't really add anything else without risking overuse injuries, without risking eventual chronic overreaching. So these 6 exercises, because of the sheer amount of volume being done, you don't have wiggle room for the weak points in the program. And there are no upper body weak points. People need to keep that in mind. In fact, I'd go so far as to say as even the curls in there might not be necessary, but it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was obsessed with biceps. So he's got the extra curls thrown in, but honestly, they might not be necessary. But we would expect that from Arnold. So your bicep development should be maximum on this. There's probably nothing you can do to get bigger arms in general over what he's got here, because of the amount of work being done for triceps and biceps. So again, my only real concern is the lack of direct posterior chain work, no deadlifts, nothing of that nature in there. But again, that might be okay just due to the sheer volume of squats. I mean, someone is still going to get posterior chain development on this. I would be worried about in the long term some imbalances with no sort of cleaning or deadlifting or anything in here. But for purely people chasing aesthetics and just overall size, that's probably going to be okay. But from an injury prevention and an athletic ability perspective, I don't like the lack of posterior chain work. The only other caveat being some people can't safely do the behind the neck press, so that could be a problem for some people. And I've seen some people suggest, well, you know, you just take that out and put it with front presses, but then you lose some of the shoulder girdle development that this program has to offer. It might not give you the full shoulder development you want, but it very well might do so anyways, just because there's so many chin-ups being done, and that might balance it back out back here. So it's really hard to say. That's going to depend on the individual a little bit. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.